Hello and welcome to the Ciao Bella Midnight Spell mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. All of the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website are linked in the description box below, so you can click on those links, purchase those products to follow along. Let's get started. I have the 8x8 paper that I'm going to be using to decorate page 2 that I've just cut in half. You don't have to worry about this paper for now. This is just showing you so that you can see my thoughts behind my design process. I'm going to be using this image here as the feature on the front of the page. The first piece that I have measures 11 inches by 8 inches, so I've just cut a ½ inch off of this piece. On the 11-inch side, I'm going to score this at 4 1/4 inches and 10 1/2 inches. Then taking my scissors, I will cut the corners on the ½ inch tab section. The next piece I have measures just slightly smaller than 4 1/4 inches by 4 inches. On the 4-inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to take my scissors and miter the ends on that ½ inch tab. I've cut another piece to 3 1/2 inches by 7 1/2 inches. This piece does not need scored. Next, I have a piece that measures 2 inches by 9 inches. On the 9-inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and 8 1/2 inches. Then I'll take my scissors and miter on both of these ½ inch tab sections. Next, I have a piece that measures 8 1/2 by 6 1/4. On the 8 1/2 inch side, I'm going to score this at 4 1/4 inches. I have two pieces that measure 4 inches by 4 inches. On both pieces, I'm going to score down the right-hand side at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to use my scissors to miter the ½ inch tabs on both of these pieces. With my bone folder, I'm going to go ahead and start scoring each of these pieces, or I should say I'm folding on each of these pieces on the score lines. I'm going to come to the larger piece. It's the only one that I'm going to fold a little bit differently. For this piece, I'm going to fold back on the score line like I normally would and burnish. Then I'm going to fold this one over and burnish this one on top of the other piece. Then I'm going to go ahead and just continue folding all these ones regularly. I have the base of my page and I'm starting with my large flap first. So I'm going to be placing my adhesive along this ½ inch tab section. Then I'm going to adhere this to the left side of my page, lining up that score line with the edge of the page and burnishing down. I'm going to open the smaller portion of my flap, and taking my 4 1/4 by 4 inch piece, I'm going to first place it on my flap and close this. Now, if on yours, if this sticks out at all past the edge, you want to trim this. Mine is just very slight. It won't even fit in my paper trimmer without snagging, so I'm just going to be using some scissors to do this. I'm going to just trim a little teeny tiny slight sliver off of my paper. Then when I put this in here and close, it should be completely hidden. So now I can go ahead, apply my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab section and adhere this down to the bottom. So I'm going to place this on the bottom edge, and then I'm going to close it to make sure that it's in the right position and it's not too far over to where it's too much into that score line, because that will not work, and I don't want it to be too far over the edge. If you do this and you close it, and once you get it on the page it is hanging over your edge here, you can take your scissors and trim that, or you can do it this way and take a craft knife and trim that. This will eventually become a pocket, so I'm going to place a P there. Now I'm going to flip this over. This is also going to be held together by a ribbon closure, so I'm going to place my R's there. This is going to go, my 3.5 by 7.5 inch piece is going to be a photo mat, so I'm going to place that there. Then I'm going to open this up. I'm going to take my belly band and mark first in the center of my page where this needs to go. So that's going to be 1 inch from center, and I'm going to mark this on top and bottom. Then I will add my adhesive to both of my 1/2 inch tabs on this piece. I'm going to start at the bottom. It doesn't matter if you start at the top or the bottom, but I'm going to adhere this down. Then I like to hold this in the center and press this direction in both directions outward, just so that the band doesn't pucker when I am burnishing down. My 8.5 by 6.25 inch piece I've turned into a card when I folded it. That's going to go under my belly band. Then I have my 2 4-inch by 4-inch flaps. I took one of my flaps and just took a very little teeny tiny piece off of the top of one of them. That way they will fit perfectly here with no overlap. I may need to trim this again. It's looking like it's not quite right. I guess it is from this angle. So you want to make sure that they both fit on your page with no overlap. And we're going to adhere these down one at a time. So just placing adhesive on one of your 1/2 inch flaps, and then adhering the score line to that right edge, and then burnish it down. Then we will repeat that process with the second flap, so adding the adhesive, and then we're going to make sure that this lines up. I'm going to flip it this way so it's a little easier for me to work with and see. So first I'm lining up the score line with the right edge of the page, and then I'm making sure that it's lined up with the flap at the bottom, and then it should line up with the top edge as well. As you're doing this, if something does not line up, you can always go ahead and trim it when it's on the page. So if you do this and it doesn't line up, you can take your straight edge like this and just trim this down slightly. So mine actually from this angle looks like it's a little bit too large. I'm just going to place this so that the edge of my ruler is at the edge of my page, and it is just slightly larger than it should be. So I'll take that little sliver off. Now when I flip my page closed, I did kind of snag it a little bit here, so I can fix that. Once I have that closed, I have that nice clean edge, and I have a clean edge at the bottom. So I have my two smaller flaps here, my belly band with my card, and then my larger flap here with my pocket on my inside. For this, I am going to have a magnetic closure, so it'll be on one of these flaps and over here. So I'm just going to place an M here, and I'll put an M here to remind me that I need to place a magnet. That's it for the front of page 2, and next we'll move on to the back of page 2. This is the 8x8 paper that I'm going to be using for the back side of page 2. I'm going to use this piece, so I've cut this to 6 1/4 inches, and I'm going to make this a waterfall with a continuous pattern on it. So this is the piece that I'm going to be using as my inspiration. We are going to cut one piece of cardstock to 7 inches by 7 1/4 inches. On the 7 1/4 inch side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch on the bottom edge. Then taking scissors, we are going to miter the ends on the 1/2 inch tab section. Then I have 4 pieces that measure 5 inches by 6 1/2 inches. On all 4 of these pieces, I'm going to place the 5 inch side across the scoreboard, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch along the right hand side, and I'm going to then miter these ends on my 1/2 inch tab section. So I'll do the same thing for all of the other pieces. The last piece you need to cut is 4 1/4 by 7 1/2. This piece does not need scored. I'm going to fold on the score lines on all of my flaps that I have made. Then I'm going to use my bone folder to burnish all of these folds. Then I'm going to come back and show you how to place these on the page. Starting with the 7 by 7 1/4 inch piece, we're going to apply our adhesive to that 1/2 inch tab. Then I'm going to place this on the base of the page at the bottom. I have my page upside down just to make it easier to see on camera, but we're going to apply this to the bottom of the page so the score line is even with the bottom edge of the page. This will eventually become a pocket, so I'm going to place my P there. Next, I'm going to bring in my 4 waterfall flaps, and we're going to place those on the page. Taking one of the flaps, go ahead and apply your adhesive to that 1/2 inch tab section. Now I'm going to start my waterfall on the right edge of my page. I'm going to leave 1/8 of an inch across from the top and the bottom edge, so there will be a small border. This flap is purposely 1/4 of an inch smaller than the pocket. My score line is right on the right edge of that flap and the page. Once I have that first flap on, I will take my second flap and apply my adhesive. Now I'm going to take this flap and place it so the score line is right next to that 1/2 inch tab, but I need to close my flap and make sure that the top and bottom edges are lined up. Then I will go ahead and burnish this down once I know that the top and bottom edges are straight. I'm going to take my third flap and apply my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab. Then I will place this one down next to my previous flap, line up my top and bottom edges. And then adhere this one down. taking my fourth and final flap, I'll place my adhesive on the 1/2 inch tab. Then I'm going to place it next to my 1/2 inch tab on the previous one, close that flap, line everything up, and then burnish this down. So now that I have my flaps on, I'm going to open the first one, place an R. I will tie these closed with ribbon. Then the final piece is your 4 1/4 by 7 1/2 inch piece. This is going to be a photo mat for this pocket in the back. So I'm just going to set that there behind the waterfall flaps for now. And this is it for page 2. And that's it for the tutorial for this page. If you are just joining the tutorial series, all of the Ciao Bella Midnight Spell products and the flowers and things that I'm using from Scrap and Create are linked in the description box below, so you can go ahead and click on those links, purchase your products, and follow along. I'll see you in the next tutorial.